who was involved with organizing, and then we'll do a family photo with everybody in the audience. Okay, that's kind of the plan. But for now, allow me and join me in celebrating the next speaker. Oh my goodness. He's already ready. See, he's going to point the camera. The next speaker is a friend of mine. We live in the same city in Berlin, and I would not be as happy of a person as I am without her. Sara Vieira, come up. She works at, let's hear it for her first. I can't. Woo! Yeah! Wow. Sara works at Axo that does developer tools in and around the Rust ecosystem, and is today here to talk to us about, the title of this talk is magical, right? Look at this, Rust for the rest of us. We were talking backstage about how there was once a talk, GraphQL for the rest of us, it's so similar, but there's also a REST API. Whoa! The layers. Without further ado, Sara.
Thank you. So hi everyone, it's really nice to be. How many of the people here were in the online version of AgentConf? I am so sorry to anyone who was at that talk, and I apologize. That was terrible. I promise that I will try to do better. Not sure I'll succeed, but yeah. So my talk is called Rust for the Rest of Us, and I'm not on Twitter. These are my cheats, because it's most live coding. And what I want to talk about is the fact that, for example, let me introduce myself first, I guess. So again, my name is Sara. I'm originally from Portugal. I live in Berlin, because apparently I really like bad food and terrible airports. I don't know, but that's the life I chose for me, and now I don't know how to go back. I'm a founding engineer at Axo.dev, which is just a fancier way of saying I joined a startup when it was really small, and now I get something before my title of engineer. I also got a title of engineer, so that's good. So I mostly do front end, and then I started doing Rust out of necessity. And I started liking Rust. And if you were here yesterday, you know that I don't really appreciate TypeScript. And that may not make any sense. But I'm going to explain something. The Rust compiler is good, unlike the TypeScript one. So like when you get an error, when you get an error, it actually tells you what's wrong and helps you fix the error. I know, it's a fucking incredible concept, right? Fun, mesmerizing concept, yeah. Okay, I'm a front-end developer. So I started, I think every country had a different website, but in Portugal, the motherland, there was this website called High Five, which was kind of like shitty Facebook, but a shittier Facebook, but but it did allow you to, it did not have React, and it did allow you to do one thing, that it was like you could customize the web page with like HTML and CSS. I think you could do JavaScript, but then they removed it. I wonder why. But that's how I learned HTML and CSS. So I'm front-end developer. I've never been to college, university, whatever you want to call it, because I'm not school smart and I was poor. So that's two very solid reasons to not go to university. I can also fall on one. When I'm like, oh, I didn't have a lot of money, they're like, yeah, but you live in Portugal, it's free. And I'm like, okay, fine, I was stupid. So I failed math in high school twice in the same year, which is honestly kind of an achievement. You get to laugh at it. It's actually like weirdly funny. But so I turned out to be a programmer who has a serious problem with thinking she's not intelligent, and I managed to learn Rust. So that means anyone can learn Rust, as long as you didn't fail math 3 years in a row in the same year. Which I don't think is kind of human. I think it's kind of humanly impossible. So the only languages that I knew before were like, I did some C# and Godot script when I was either learning Unity or Godot. I gave up on that because it turns out making video games is painful. But the only language I knew besides that was JavaScript. Node is JavaScript. I mean, I guess I knew TypeScript, but that doesn't really count. I mean, it's not because it's bad, but because it's like similar. And I mean to tell you that Rust is fun, not like fun, like nerd fun. You're not gonna like have a blast with it, right? Like, calm down. It's not like, it's not a rave. So we're gonna build a CLI. We're gonna build a small CLI with Rust. We're gonna attempt to not cry while we're building it, maybe. And yeah, that's about it. So what we're gonna make is live coding and prayers, yeah. So what we're gonna make is that everyone know about like the cow thing, the cow CLI thing? You're gonna know about it as soon as I show it here. This is not it. This thing. Okay, this is actually it. So we're basically gonna make this, and you will spill soup in the late evening. Okay, I just gotta not eat soup. So basically what we're gonna make is a small CLI that prints out a cow, tells you either a message or a random fact. And when I was building this, I realized there was only one useless fact API and that it didn't work anymore, so I made another one. You can use it. It's at like useless API that pages, no, it's not here, sorry. This is the big URL. I also don't know how to write useless properly, so it's here. It's useless.m.dev. It has like 130 facts and like 10 categories. You can use it however you want. I don't care, it's on Cloudflare. There's no limit in bandwidth. Have fun. Put it in your Tesla. I don't fucking know what a Tesla is. I don't have a car. I live in Berlin. That sounds painful. Imagine how many papers I would have to fill in to own a property in Germany. So many. Okay, so yeah, you can get a number of facts. You can also get by category. There's a category that's just Iceland. I don't know why. But there's a bunch of categories, and you can use that if you want. Free of charge. Which I don't know why I said it with like a very weird accent, but sure, free of charge. I'm not nervous at all, as you can see. So right now, what we have is this. Close others. Close this. That was not even supposed to be open at any point. Close this. And open this. There we go. All right, so NPM. This is related, I promise. So the NPM version of Rust is called Cargo, which is like if you had NPM and put it on superpowers. And I don't mean like PNPM or Yarn or something like actual superpowers, because it also does tests and stuff. So it runs tests, it does installments, like of packages, and it does one thing that is called Clippy. And if you run cargo Clippy, it tells you all the annoying problems with your code. It doesn't have to be like, this is wrong. It usually is something like, you can make this better. And it's actually really useful. I never thought I would say this, but Clippy is really useful. So yeah. So for example, if I want to build this project, I can run cargo build. And that just builds it in like 10 seconds. But if I run cargo run, that just does the thing. And that, oh, I know what's happened right now. I'm not in the correct folder, wait. That does make sense. So that will just say sup, because right now I'm passing the text to the cow is just being passed in. So let's go over what I actually have in here. Can everyone read it, or should I put the code bigger? Bigger, okay. A British person told me that, so I'll do it. So, you gotta take them seriously. So, let's start with an fn main. So if you're doing a CLI, the first function that will run is your main.rs that has a main function, and that will just run. That's the default thing in Rust. And in main, I just call a function, and it's the exact same way as we do in JavaScript, but semicolons are mandatory. It's not like JavaScript where they're mandatory. They're actually mandatory. And then we have variables, so there are also constants, but constants work in a in a different way than JavaScript. So if I write a constant, right, and I call it text, and I say that this constant is called sup, and I delete this baby, I'm gonna get an error, and the error is that I have to say the type. So you can't just say like, here's a constant. You have to tell it that this constant is a string. So if you want to say that it's a string, it's basically pretty similar to TypeScript. So that is a slice of a string. So if you want to, from a slice of a string, create a string, you can do string from, and then that will make a slice. That will make an actual string. But just trust me here, it's either that or a string with an uppercase. If it's not that, it's the other one. Doesn't matter. This is a slice, and the point is slices take less memory space. So if I come here and I do like string from, and I do this, then it's no longer that, and it's a string. That's about it. Let me delete this. But, opa, no, baby, no. Okay, calm down. And then we just have the cow. That's about it, right? So print ln, it's basically a console log, but ln, it's a line. You can also just print, and print is a console log, basically. The main reason that I usually use ln is because it will like automatically create a break to the other line. That's the only reason. It's for stylistic purposes. Yeah, I don't know why I say purpose with the British accent. I don't know. I lived there for 6 months and I still carry this burden with me. So yeah, okay, let's start this. We want to build a CLI. And to build a CLI, we need to install a couple of packages. So there's one package called Serde. Wait, is it Serde? No, it's one package called Clap. And Clap is the main package that's used to build CLI. So how do you install things? So you can install things by running cargo add clap. And if I do cargo add clap, it will go to the crates.io index, which is basically npmjs.org, and it will fetch this package for me. And I should have installed this before, but I like living on the edge. So there you go. So now we all have to wait for this. Oh, God. Okay, so I also actually need to install a feature, so I'm just going to stop this and do like F. And what F does, it installs certain features. So the way that packages work, they're all by default tree shakeable, and by default they may not include every, that was a weird accent, every feature. And in this case, we want a feature called derive. And what derive does, it's like a new syntax for Rust. It's not new, it's like 2 years old. But it's like, I think it's like for not from the before times of COVID. It's like I have like three timestamps in my head. It was like back when I thought I was straight, before COVID, and now. And that's it. That's all I got. I got nothing else. Like years are all just a blur to me. But derive is basically like a simpler way to specify what something needs. So if I just pass derive, this should install like clap and derive. And like I said, clap allows us to create arguments and stuff like that, like basically create a full-blown CLI in a way easier way. So that's what we're going to be using as soon as this finishes installing. If there's internet problems, I got like a hotspot, but it does have German internet, so I'm not sure it's going to be better. I don't know. It's really weird. Okay, thank God that worked. I was going to start complaining about internet now. Unless you still, no, I have to install more things, so then I'll tell you later. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to, first of all, create what the fuck is going to go into our CLI. Like, what are the arguments of our CLI? And for that, we need to create a struct, which is kind of a type. What is the other thing TypeScript has? It says types and it has what? It's more like an interface than a type. What's the difference? I don't know. But I don't know why this made sense in my head. So let's create a struct called CLI, right? I don't know why Rust Analyzer isn't working, and I'm not enjoying that. Okay, he's trying his best now. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to create a struct called CLI. And what this is going to have is all of the parameters that we can pass to our CLI. So I'm just going to pass, first of all, I'm going to pass a message. And this message is going to be like, so like, for example, if you pass sup, the cow will just say sup, which is like exactly what it's saying now, but let's just ignore that part. But we want to pass a message, and that is a string. But it's not only a string, because it's not mandatory, because we're going to have several. Like, we're going to have two types. You can either pass a fact or a message. So it's an option. It's optional. So, and if something is optional, you can type option. Oh my God. I'm terrified that like the Rust thing is not working. It's terrifying. Like coding in Rust is already terrifying, but like, yeah. Oh wait, file not included in the module. Oh, I know what's happening. Okay, I can fix it. So like the Rust Analyzer in Chrome doesn't work, and like if you think you're doing like a mono repo, no. Rust Analyzer is like, no. Never. No, actually, never was for that. But the point is, it was inside a folder, and Rust was like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, it's a folder, and he's like, no, it's not. You just think it's a folder. Oh, look at that! And now it says it is in use. Oh, thank God. Okay, so that Rust thing also tells you like what certain types are. So cool. So we have this. It's not going to do anything because like it's generally just not being used. So the first thing we want to do is we want to derive from it. And what derive is, it's basically telling Rust like this struct is supposed to be a part of something bigger. That sounded weirdly Christian. I don't know why. Just join me in this journey of inner peace while we learn Rust. Okay, so now we derive, and the only thing that I really want to do for now is parser. And if you write parser, what this is going to do is it's going to say, you need to parse this struct like it's like arguments of a CLI, basically. And now we need another derive here and basically tell it it's an argument. And a derive isn't just this. It's anything inside of these things is like derived. So I can do this and then just say arg. And then inside the arg, I'm just going to pass long and short. And what this does is that it basically says you can pass this as message or you can pass this just as M. So it's really easy to do that. I mean, easy. I mean, this is Rust. It's not easy, but it's Doable. We can do it. Okay, cool. So now we need to actually parse this, right? That's why we have the parse thing. That's cool. So let me go on the main and say let CLI equals CLI, 2 dots, and parse. And I wonder what this is. So now I'm going to do println, which is print line. And then the way that print works in I was going to say TypeScript, in Rust is that, first of all, you have to pass it this. So what this is means whatever you pass, whatever you give to me afterwards, I will put it in here. So like if I do and then do this, it just basically writes lol and then adds whatever it is in here. But this thing is only for strings. If you want to have an object or something, you have to do this. And what I'm going to tell you is just memorize it. That's what I did. So this is for objects, anything like that. And now we have another error because we also need to derive debug. By default, things are not debuggable, which I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know. And now I can just pass. So it's F, no, it's M. And yeah, okay, it's here. But it's not going to work, right? It's just going to tell me, okay, so I'm not going to tell you about German internet. Okay, I'm not, thank God. Okay, so we have a lol, and then we have, this is the message that you gave me. Okay, cool, how do we actually print that? So the first step that we need to do is check if we do actually have this message, because we may not have it, because again, it's an option. And how do we check something? And I'm going to introduce you to the weirdest thing that Rust has. You think you've seen everything. You've seen nothing, my friends. I'm old. Okay, so I'm actually 55. No, I'm kidding, I'm 31. Imagine, that would be great. Okay, so there's something in Rust called if-let-sum. And you're like, what the fuck's that? So basically, let's say that you have this message, right? And it's at CLI.message. And what you want to check is, does this message exist? And if it exists, please assign it to a variable. Because if I do if CLI that message that is empty is sum, which means like it exists. Don't know why I said it exists. But then I do CLI that message. The issue with this is that, wait, there we go. Yeah, so it still shows, but if I say here, so right now it's an option of a string. And in here in the cow, what I want to do is say, okay, that's cool. I want to pass a message, MSG, and that will be a string. So this is the same way you do it in JavaScript. It's exactly the same. And then in here, I would pass CLI that message. And I can delete this. And you get an error. And you get an error because this is a string. It's expecting a string, but you're passing it a CLI, like an option string. But you already did an if. You know it's not an option. You know it exists. Why doesn't Rust know? I don't know. But there is a way to fix it. So if you do if-let sum, and then give it any name. So let's call it, I don't fucking know. I'm just going to call it message, and that's just sad. If-let sum message equals CLI.msg, then you know that this exists. So basically what it's doing is, if CLI that message is equal to something, then assign that something to this variable, and then let her use it. And now if I pass message, I will not get an error. Probably, I did not get an error, that's good. So and in here, I'll just replace this with message. And now, and replace this, okay, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be lazy about it, I'm just gonna replace this with text. Because that sounds easier. Good, there we go. Okay, so now if I pass -m, and I pass hello, AgentConf, if I can type, the cow says hello, AgentConf. There we go. You're now ready to pick a fursona and become a furry and join the Rust community. It's great. So that's cool, but what I also want to show it a random fact, and for that is why I built that stupid ass API. And what we're gonna do is also allow people to pass in fact thing. So let me just copy this because I'm lazy. And this is gonna be fact, and then it's gonna be a Boolean. So why is this not an option? The way I thought about it was, if it doesn't exist, it's false, so it's never gonna be an option Boolean, it's just gonna be Boolean. So you pass bool. I don't know why I got sleepy in the middle of the talk, that's weird. Okay, so that's cool. And we need two things. So first thing we need is request. So request is a package that, as it says, does API requests. I know, mind-blowing, right? So let's add a request. So cargo add. But you think you would write it like normal people, which is not a thing, but you write it like this. I wasn't kidding about the furries. No, they're great. I love them. So request, and then y'all need to pass 2 things. So I want to pass, what do I want to pass actually? Let me go to my cheats and remember what I want to pass, because I have 2 features that I need, I think. Yeah, so I need to pass JSON, because we're going to be reading JSON, and I need to pass something called blocking, because teaching anyone about async Rust is not something that I am intending on doing. So we're doing blocking and JSON. I think I can just pass it like this. I cannot. So I think it's like this. Yeah. So these 2 oh, that was weirdly fast. Okay, that's cool. So I have to keep talking. That's cool. Okay, so that added it to here. And as you can see, you have like, it's a TOML file. By the way, did you know TOML actually stands for Tom's, what is it? Obvious markup language. It's supposed to be obvious. That's my point in all of this. Tom, it must be a genius. So yeah, so you can see that we have the version and we have any features that we want. And you can also see like when you install it, that these are all the features that are in here. If anything has underscores, it usually means that it's like highly not stable. Just, yeah. But yeah, so we have this. So we need to get the data from that API. Cool. We can do that. So let me get the API URL again. So it's this /API/random. And that's it. I don't know what it says. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so the next step that I want to do is check if I pass the fact. Instead of passing the message, I pass the fact. And in this case, we don't need the value of the fact. We just need to make sure it exists. So we can just do a regular if. So if CLI that fact, then we do something. So what we do is that we need to get this. So I can call request, and then I need to call it as blocking, and then get. And then I just pass the URL, and then a whole bunch of problems start appearing. So I'm going to assign it to something called body. There we go. So the way that this works is that it will return a result. And a result is like, in the future, I may have something for you, which is cool. We can do something that is basically like a catch-all thing, which you do this, and it basically says, okay, that's cool. So you want it, if there's an error, I should just like output that error, give you the error and not care, and meaning that after this, it will only be a response, there will be no error. But this means that your function now returns a result. So we need to change the return value of our function. So right now, you can see that it gives me an error, and it says, okay, yeah, can only be used in a function that returns a result, which is like someday I'll probably give you something. So the way you do a return blah blah, that is like this. And so we want to do a result, and the result needs a success and an error. So our success is absolutely nothing, and our error is the error that comes from request. Shit, not that. Oh God, I lost it. It's gone forever now. Okay, let me just go back, and then it's, oh, nope. Okay, so error, Rust, where is that? Oh my God, okay. I can just like do request and then error. That's fair. Okay, so now we get another error, that's cool. So the thing is, our function isn't returning anything right now, so if you want to say okay, like it's okay, whatever, you can just say okay, literally. And Rust is like, okay. And we're all like, okay. One thing about Rust that's really interesting is that if you don't give a semicolon to the last line, you will assume that you want to return it. So you don't need a return, which is quite cool. But if you add a semicolon, then because you're a JavaScript developer like me, then it's like, what the fuck? You need to return something. So yeah, most of my PR reviews at Axo are just like, why did you add a return? And I'm like, because I'm a JavaScript developer. Okay, cool. So it just says that body is not used, and then what we need to do is basically say, okay, from this response, I want the JSON. So let's do that JSON. Don't scare me like that. And now we get another error. This is all supposed to happen. Actually, it actually is. So basically what happens is you actually need to specify what is coming back from this API. You can't just say like, give me JSON. Rust is like, no, you need to tell me what JSON, what part of JSON. So for that, one really good package that exists is called Serde, and Serde, no, it's just Serde. I don't know why I was like Serde, but it's just, there's a package called Serde that does this very, very well. So let's cargo add Serde. And then we'll create a type for this. So dir. And then I think we need something for it. Yeah, we need derive to make our code easier. Okay, cool. So now what we need to do is create another type. And this type basically says what comes from this API. Right, so we can do that with another struct. Okay, so let's create a struct, and I can show you here. So it basically has a fact and a category, that's it. And they're both always strings. Did I make it easier on purpose? Maybe. So let's create a struct, and this struct is called fact. We're very quiet right now, I don't know why. And we have a fact, and this is a string, and we also have a category, which is also a string. There we go. It's a string. There we go. And we need to tell it that we derive parsing and we derive a bunch of stuff from Saturday for this. So we can do the whole like, I derive things, which is here. And I want to derive basically serialize and deserialize, which means like I want this to be both serializable and deserializable by Saturday. So Saturday will do that so that he can use it as a type and match against it. So you can deserialize this struct, put it as JSON and say like, okay, this is actually the same thing. So I want to serialize and serialize. And I also want debug because I like debugging things. I know, I'm a weirdo. So now what I need to do is I think it's like this and then fact. Is it? It is. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm a genius. So you can see that there's no error, right? But if I do lol and I do bool, come on, come here. Okay, there's still no error because I need to run it. That was not very smart of me. So. No, that was not it. That was it. There we go. Okay, so now it's like installing, like it's not installing, it's like compiling everything because it just added it and now it actually has to compile the packages that we just installed. I don't remember what I was gonna tell you about German internet. Okay, there we go. It's doing the thing and now it has done absolutely nothing. That's cool. Oh, I know why. I actually know why. It's because this thing is not returning. I don't know why I keep getting sleepy. It's really weird. So the point is, this would give you... oh, okay. Let me just print the body. So do this weird thing again. Not this. This also happens a lot. My keyboard is weird. Like, I don't know why. Like, I have just decided as an adult that I do not want to learn an American keyboard. So I keep using a Portuguese keyboard that needs 3 keystrokes to do a curly bracket. Okay. There you go. So, yeah, I wasn't, because it just kind of swallows it because of this thing, the question mark. So it says, like, missing field lol. So, which means that if I do this now and remove the lol field, it should work. And it should, like, actually fetch it and parse it and unserialize it. There you go. Returns OK. And the fact Jupiter is twice as massive as all the other planets combined. There you go. All is good, yes. So now we get another result. And we don't like results, so we just swallow the error. That's what we do. That's how we roll in this country that I don't even live in. Okay, so now I just need to call the cow, right? So cow, and then I pass body, that fact. I'm typing like my mother. Like 1 keystroke at a time. Okay, body, that fact. And this should work. So if I run F now, let me clean this. Yeah. The Tor browser was invented by the United States Navy. Do you know that? Do you know why they want you to use it? Because otherwise, it would always be the Navy using it. It's actually like, I know, it's all just a big conspiracy theory. The entire everything is a conspiracy theory. Okay, so another thing that I want to do, one thing that we can do to make our like bundle, not bundle, but like the thing smaller is that now we can remove these debugs because we don't need them anymore. Everything will still run. And another thing that I want to do is if I run this and then I run help, it also creates this thing for me. But it doesn't have any info, right? It's kind of like infoless. So I don't know what kind of infoless means. So you can pass a help parameter here. And let's say like make the cow say something. And then help and then that doesn't make sense because I was just literally going to write the same thing. Okay, so now if I run help, it's actually helpful, which is really good. We want to be helpful to other people. So yeah, that's about what I have in terms of Rust. So we've learned how to start an API, a CLI, how to connect to an API, how to serialize things, how to deserialize things. We've learned how to do a lot of things. And I know this is a lot of code, and the point of this like talk isn't really that like you go home and you like talk to your wife, or I don't know what people have, adults. It's like you go home, talk to your cat, and be like, I know Rust now. It's more like you get an idea of how it works and that it's not as scary as like people make it out to be. It's not really people because the community is really nice, but it's just like it looks like a scary language. It's all the types. And like the pound thing makes it really scary. It does. That was my first. And the if let sum is like, what the fuck? But yeah, so I think that was my main point with this talk. There is something in Rust called borrowing, which means that you can't really use the same variable twice. You have to borrow the value. And that's not something that I really got into because it's like, it would take like 30 minutes of itself. But that is something that you should think about if you want to start learning Rust, that there is like, you can't just keep using the same variable. You have to like either borrow it or clone it or something like that. Don't always clone it. It feels dirty. You can do it, but you shouldn't do it. That's what I've been told, basically. But yeah, okay, so that's basically what I had to show about Rust. We've learned some Rust. It was great. Okay, cool. So if you want to check out the, yeah, I know the talk and the repo have 2 different names. And I don't know why. I've just realized before my talk that I actually apparently stole the name from Sarah Drasner's book. And I didn't realize that. She has a book called Engineering for the Rest of Us. And in my brain, I thought I made this up. And I was like really smart. It's fine. All Sarah's brains work together, actually. It's all a symbiosis. Yeah, I didn't know that either. Found this out today because I didn't steal it. Okay, yeah, so if you want to check out the repo, it has like a start part and it has like the normal part. It also has the deck, but the deck pretty much has nothing. So you can check it out at like my name. Don't forget that it has 2 I's. I know it's very confusing. But there's an I and then an E and then another I. It's very important. And it's /Rust for all. Yeah, and that's about it. Thank you so much for having me, AgentConf. Yeah.